Hey everybody, I'm back. I know, you didn't even know I was gone, and that's okay. My name is Bill, this is Yo-Yo Tech. I talk about home automation and technology in general. If you're interested about that at all, hit the subscribe button down below, the little bell, you guys all know how it works. Today I wanted to talk to you about a problem or an issue that I have had with my computer and computer audio specifically. I'm working on a Mac right now, but this works both on a Mac PC. I have a number of different outputs plugged into my computer. I have speakers in my office, I have speakers in the next room, I have my headphones, I have audio that's going into my Zoom calls, I have microphones, all sorts of different things. And I have a hard time being able to control the volume of different applications going to different places. Let me give you an example. Say I'm listening to Apple Music here in my office. I want it playing quietly, background noise on my speakers in the office, but I want it a little louder in the next room on another pair of speakers. Now at the same time, I want to be able to jump on a Zoom call and not have that audio go through the Zoom input or come into my headphones. Unless, of course, someone on the call says, hey, what are you listening to? Well, I'd love to be able to hit a button and route that music into the Zoom call and control the volume. Turn it up a little bit so they can hear it, turn it down, turn it off. Now that's just one example. This exists for everything on my computer, whether it's notification sounds from specific applications like Slack. I want to be able to route where they go. So maybe here in my office, really quietly on the speakers, not in the headset, not through Zoom calls, and a little bit louder in the next room. So if I'm off to the side, I know what's going on. Same thing goes for Zoom calls. Maybe I want to listen to the audio from my Zoom calls on my headset most of the time, but let's say I'm on a webinar or something where I'm not really participating. Maybe I want to turn the audio on to my speakers or my speakers in here and my speakers in the next room and then turn the headphones off. So you can see what I'm looking for here. I want options. And I found this very difficult to do on a Mac. There's some software on a PC that makes it easier, but still not great. And hey, this wouldn't be a home automation video if I wasn't going to show you how to connect it all to Home Assistant and be able to control all of your Mac audio remotely from Home Assistant using automations. If that sounds interesting, well, let's get into it. Okay, good. You're still here. So I'm going to try to move fairly quick today. There's some steps for this that are pretty easy. I'm going to assume you know how to install software and stuff like that. If you have more questions, put them down below. Speaking of the comments down below, I will put all the details in there, links to anything you need, any extra steps, anything that I find I've missed in the video, I'll put it down below. I'm also going to have some links to some of the items that I'm using today. They're affiliate links. If you click on them, helps me out, doesn't cost you a cent. Let's move on. First piece of software we're going to need is OBS, Open Broadcast Software. It's a free piece of software. Essentially, it's used for broadcast, whether it be streams, WebEx, Zoom, you name it. It's a fantastic tool. If you haven't used it before, definitely give it a look. Maybe I'll do some other videos with some of the other things you can do with it, but for today, we're doing audio. So head on over to obsproject.com in your browser, or just search Google for OBS. It'll be the first thing that comes up. Download the version for your computer. I'm doing it on a Mac today, but like I said, I think it'll work for everything. Second thing we're going to need is a plugin for OBS, and it's called Audio Monitor. 0.8.3 at the time of this recording. So go ahead and download those two, install them both on your computer. They're fairly easy to do. Open them up. We don't need any settings. Once the plugin's installed, it'll just be there, and we just need a default instance. So let's jump over to my OBS. So this is all installed. Yours will look a little bit differently. You won't have any scenes or anything in the windows because it's brand new. Head on over to Scenes, click the plus, and type in here audio monitors, and OK. And essentially what we're doing is we're creating a folder for all intents and purposes where we're going to store what we're doing today. And those are our sources. So under sources, you click the plus, and the two that we're going to pay attention to are audio input capture and Mac OS audio capture. There's two different ways to do what I'm going to show you today. The one way is completely free and you can do it all with OBS. I'm going to show you another way that involves a tool that you have to buy, but it just makes things easier. But you can do it for free if you want to go that route. So the first one we're going to do is Mac OS audio capture. And essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to do Apple Music -speakers as a name. You can see I've done this before, so there's already some existing here. Go ahead and say OK. And what we want to do is we want to change this to application audio capture. And when we open up the applications, we're going to see all of the applications on our Mac that have made any noise since the computer's booted up. And essentially, if something is not there, then all you need to do is back out of this screen, go and open the application, play some audio. That'll tell the OS, it'll tell OBS that exists, and it'll show up in the list. So you can see I already have Mac Music down here that's been open. So I'm just going to select Music and say OK. So essentially what we've done here is we've told the computer to capture the audio from Mac Music. The next step, we're going to add a filter to that. So we're going to click on it, add filter, do a plus, and here we have something called Audio Monitor. That's the plugin that you downloaded. We're going to go ahead and add that. We don't need to give it a name, it doesn't matter. And what we want to do here is direct it where to go. So I've called this speakers, and I know my speakers are plugged into my Samsung monitor. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to link the source volume, and I am going to link it to source muting. That's it. Now essentially what we've done is we have told the computer to capture Apple Music and output it to my speakers, which is going out through my Samsung monitor. This volume control here is the volume control that we will control directly here, and that's what will control the level of volume going to those speakers. And I'm going to show you how to link that and control it from other places. So now that that's done, you're essentially going to want to do the same thing again. You're going to want to go plus, audio capture. We're going to call it the same thing, Apple Music, but this time we'll call it headphones. Say OK. We'll do application capture again. We will choose music again, OK. But this time when we add our filter, we add our audio monitor, no name. I'm going to put it to my headphones, which I know is plugged into my LG monitor. Again, we're going to link the volume, we're going to link the muting, and we're going to say save. So now we have two audio inputs, which are both capturing Apple Music. One is going out to headphones, one is going out to speakers, and we have complete independent control of each of them. So what you're going to want to do next is go through every single application you want to capture audio from and set up one of these devices. Teams, or whether it's from Slack, or whether it's from your browsers, Chrome, Apple, and you can set these all up. You'd also want to set up any other outputs. So let's say, for example, I mentioned I want to have my Apple Music go to the next room speakers. Well, that is plugged into my my Mac Mini directly. So I'd do the same thing. I'd create Apple Music - remote speakers, and I would add a monitor to it that output that using the Mac Mini audio output. So I have a Streamdeck installed on my computer, and it is the Streamdeck Plus, and essentially this has 8 buttons on it, and it has 4 little knobs, and you can assign things to them. So what I'm going to do is jump into a spare screen here, and when you installed OBS, it's added the plugin in here, or it's automatic. There's nothing extra to do at least. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these audio mixer volumes, and I'm just going to drag it to the dial. And essentially in the drop down, we are going to see Apple Music headphones, and I'll drag a second one, and we'll have Apple Music speakers. And essentially what that now does is gives us control using the knobs on here up and down to control those inputs in OBS. Okay, so if we put OBS back up on the screen, and I go back into where we were getting our audio monitors, and I go back into Apple Music headphones, and we go to filters. If I put this up and down, here you'll see it, you can see it's corresponding over here on the Streamdeck. So essentially they're controlling each other. Now when I move it on the Streamdeck, it doesn't close it. So if I crank it up full on the Streamdeck and then I just open it up again, you'll see it's full. And then I close it and crank it down low, and you can see it's lowered the volume. So essentially it is doing it, it just doesn't update in the interface automatically. And you can also mute and unmute. So that's a really easy way to go to add them to your application or to your Streamdeck. I've essentially set up a menu. So I have browser, music, video conference, system, and mic. And each one of these goes to a second page in Streamdeck where I have the audio controls. So for example, browser to headset, to speakers, to my external speaker, my speakers in the next room, and to the stream. And you can see some of these are muted, some of these have different volume levels, and it allows me to easily manage them. Same thing for video conference, system sounds, microphone itself, and music. All of them have separate inputs and outputs. Okay, so that's kind of the basics of what I'm doing. That shows you how you go ahead and create each monitor in OBS and how you can control them from Streamdeck. Super simple. But you may be saying, hey, that's going to get a bit of a pain. You have to create one for music times 4 for each output. If you did this for 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 apps on your computer, you might end up with a lot of inputs, a lot of outputs. You can do it that way. Once you set it up, it pretty much runs and it doesn't matter, but it can get a little complicated. So one of the tools that I have used, a tool called Loopback. This is from a company called Amoeba. It's about $104. There is a trial, so if you just want to see if this is right for you, you can go ahead and use that. I think it's 10 days or something like that. But it's definitely worth it. If you download this and you install it on your computer, and it's a really simple tool. Essentially, on the left-hand side here, you can create what they call a virtual device. And I'm going to create a new one. Just click here at the bottom. And we're going to name this, for example, browser audio. Okay. And then by default, I'm going to get rid of this pass-through that comes with it. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that one. And this allows us to do the same thing that we were doing in OBS. We can open this up and we can select what applications we want to aggregate together into that virtual device. So for example, I could do Google Chrome, and then I could come down and add Safari. And if I had something else in there, I could, let's say for whatever reason, I wanted my calendar notifications to come through the browser audio. And you can see how you can aggregate them all together. Now, if we go back to OBS and we go to our audio monitors that we had in the beginning, from here, it makes it a little bit easier because we're going to go ahead and we're going to say create a new one. And instead of macOS audio capture, we're going to do an input because remember this was a virtual input. And we are going to say browsers, and we will call this headphones. And that already exists because we've used it. Browser, Loopback, and headphones. And then what we're going to do in here, you'll notice that we have something called browser audio, and that's what we called it in Loopback. So that is that aggregate device of all of those applications. So we're going to go ahead and do OK. And then just like before, we're going to add a filter. We're going to do a monitor, no name. And again, I know my headphones are plugged into my LG. Link the volume, link the muting, and close it. So that has given us this aggregate control over our browser audio. So because I don't really care which browser I'm using, I want to be able to control the audio all the same. It's an easy way to be able to just do one control and manage them all. If I jump back over into Loopback, I will show you that I have this set up. Here's my actual browsers. I've done the same thing for microphones, for music players. System sounds is a big one, so Finder, and across there you can get all the different things, sound effects, Siri, all of the things on your computer you may want to route audio. And finally, video conferencing. This is FaceTime, Microsoft Teams, the new Teams, and Zoom. So it allows me to aggregate these all together and treat them as one audio device. Okay, so now we have OBS Setup. We have the plugin. We've created some audio capture. We've tried to use Loopback so we can make that a little bit easier, and we've got it all being controlled from a Streamdeck. But the next big thing is how do we get that into Home Assistant and how do we get it working? Let's jump over to Home Assistant. Hopefully you have that installed and running already. You'll need to go down to your settings and go to your add-on store And you're going to want to make sure you have Mosquito Broker installed. This is an MQTT broker. If you don't, you're just going to be able to go down to the add-on and search for it and add that in. So you should be able to install that. Once that's installed, we're going to want to create a user to access it. So go back to your settings, go to people. I created one called OBS. You need this person to be allowed to log in. You can restrict it to your local network if you'd like. And you just want to make sure you set a password for it. The other thing we need to do is head on over to OBS. You want to go up into the menu at the top and you want to go under Tools and open WebSocket. You're going to want to make sure you enable the WebSocket. And then you're going to click on Show Connection Info. And this is warning me because I'm sharing. Copy your IP address, your port, and the password that it gives you. And this is your connection info to connect to OBS. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to go on to the description down below, and I have a link to a script that I have written. This is something that I've cobbled together from a bunch of different people. I've tried to put some credit in there from where I pulled the sources, but to be honest, it happened over time. I know that you guys can do so much better with this, so if someone out there is a coder and wants to help clean this up and improve this script, please do. It is essentially a broker, so it's going to talk to OBS and it's going to talk to Home Assistant, and it keeps the two of them communicating through this script. I'd love to find a better way to run it. The truth of the matter is I've just run it on my computer. I've never had any problems with that, so I haven't invested the time to try to figure out a better way. You're going to want to go ahead and download that. So it's called OBS Connect. And once you download it, you're going to want to open it in a text editor on your computer. And there's two spots to update. One of them here is the host information with the port and password for OBS. And the second one is the host, the user, and the user password for Home Assistant. If this is the first time you've used Python on your computer, there may be a few extra steps. I'll put some notes down in the description with that. Just some simple commands. You need to include some dependencies. I'll have some notes in the script as well. Once that is installed, you're going to want to go ahead and open a terminal on your computer. To be honest, the easiest way to do this is just to grab the script and drag it into the terminal. And that just tells it where the location is. And we hit enter. Now, if everything has worked well, you're going to see OBS connection successful, MQTT connection successful, and that is it. This window, you're going to want to leave running all of the time. Just minimize it, let it run in the dock. When your computer reboots, you'll just need to go in and run it again. But this is the part, like I said, if someone out there can come up with a better way to run this full time, that would be great. So let's jump back to the browser for a second. Now we're going to go into device and settings. You should have MQTT. And in here, if we do a refresh, we should see that all of our inputs and outputs from OBS have now come into Home Assistant. And we have mute statuses, and these will update. So for example, if I go on my Streamdeck and I mute the Apple Music capture that we had set up earlier, you'll see it comes in. Headphone capture was turned on, mute was turned off, and if I turn the volume up or down, it adjusts the value. So the first time it's used, it just updates into Home Assistant. And from now on, you can update them right here in Home Assistant, and you can use them just like you would any other control in Home Assistant. You can add automations, you can trigger off them so that if you're, one of the volumes is muted, it automatically mutes 5 others. So there's lots of things you can do in here. It adds controls to control the virtual camera in OBS, stream in OBS, and the virtual camera in OBS. So all of those are added here as well. If we wanted to jump over to a blank dashboard, we could edit the dashboard, and let's try this with a number card. So I'm going to choose the mushroom number card, Apple Music, I believe it was capture for headphones, and do save. And now you can see if I come on my Streamdeck and I turn that volume, it updates instantly in Home Assistant, and you would be able to control it. So you can create mutes, you can create all sorts of dashboards in here and be able to control all of your different audio controls. That's the main part of what I've done here. Essentially, we've got OBS Setup. It's managing your inputs and your outputs. We've got Streamdeck, which is able to control it for easy on the desk access. And we have everything going into Home Assistant where it can be set up with automations and dashboards, and you control it from tablets and phones and everything else. So it's kind of the complete thing. So the final thing I want to do is show you how I set this up with any type of video conferencing. It's pretty easy to do. The main tool I'm going to use for this is actually Loopback. It's my preference, but if you don't have Loopback and you're going the other route, you can download a tool called Black Hole, or there is one called VB Audio. Just do search in Google for them. Again, I'll put the links down below. You install that driver, and that's going to give you two kind of virtual black hole drivers. And essentially what these are is they're internal routing cables in your computer that get audio from one to another. You'll understand. Let me show you how I do it in Loopback. So if we jump over to Loopback, you're going to see I've set up at the top here already two new devices. One is called Audio from VC. The other one is called Audio to VC. So essentially, audio from is other people speaking that is coming into my system. Audio to is anything I want to send through video conferencing. So that is the basics. Next, we're going to jump over to OBS. So in OBS, when I go into my audio sources, I'm going to create a couple here. Let's do audio input capture. And what we're going to do is we're going to do microphones to stream. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the microphones that we previously created in Loopback, or you could directly select the Scarlett if you wanted to, or your microphone device, but I'm going to do microphones from here. And for filters on this one, we're going to do an output, audio monitor, and we are going to send that to audio to video conference. We're going to put a volume on it, and we are going to link the source muting, and we're going to close it. The next one I'm going to create is audio capture, and let's call this stream, and we will do this to headphones. We'll pick the audio device for that, and that is going to be audio from video conferencing. So this is anyone speaking or anything coming out of your video conference. Go ahead and add a filter and a monitor. And this one's going to be going to my headphones, so that's the LG. We'll link it to volume, link it to muting, and say OK. And we're going to go ahead and create another audio capture. And for this one, what we'll do is we'll do music loopback to stream. And essentially, this is going to give us the ability to send music into our video conference. So we're going to choose, again, music. So we're capturing the music audio, and we're going to add a filter with a monitor. But this time, we're going to do the output to video conference. So audio to VC, again, a volume, link it to muting, and save it. And that will give us all three. So with these, we can actually send our microphone to the stream, music to the stream, and we can hear everything that comes back from video conferencing from the actual stream itself. Okay, so let's jump over to Teams. And in Teams, you can see it's set up to Scarlett right now, which is my microphone directly, but we're going to change that so that the speaker becomes audio from VC. So this is the output, so audio coming out of VC is going to go back into the system and go out through the headphones or speakers. And then the microphone would be audio to VC. And what this is doing is anything that we pointed towards video conferencing in OBS will now be sent through it. So whether it's the music, whether it's microphone, we can set as many of these up for sound effects or pretty much anything else you can think of. You could even send other tools, like if you wanted a Zoom calls audio to go into your Teams, you could do that. So that's pretty much it. If you wanted to set that up, you could still use the black hole way that I said, and essentially instead of to Teams and from Teams, you would just set both of them to black hole, and it would essentially accomplish the same thing. Questions about anything, put them down in the comments below. Hopefully this has helped you out. I think there's some pretty cool concepts in here, using OBS, using the Python script, and using Loopback to Home Assistant. And I think that there's an awful lot you can do with this, even if all you want to do is control your recording and control your scenes. Maybe you're doing a stream to something else and you want to be able to do that from Home Assistant. It's a pretty powerful script, and it's a pretty powerful integration that I've used quite a bit. I've been doing it now for probably a little more than a year, and it's been pretty successful. I don't really have any problems with it. The only thing you need to remember is when you reboot your computer, you have to start that Python script up. But like I said, if one of you can come up with a better way of handling that. Guys, that's it. It's my first video back in a while. Hopefully you liked it. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, the bell. You know how it all works. I'm going to see you guys back here soon. See you later.